watching AYV Television.
Good evening, viewers, and welcome to another episode of The Woman's Place on AYV Television, Channel 33. I am your host, Dr. Frances Wuri-Sise, obstetrician gynecologist. The Woman's Place show gives the space to discuss health issues affecting women and girls in Sierra Leone. Remember that you can catch an episode every Friday at 6 p.m. or watch it live on ayvnews.com. You can also visit our Facebook page at The Woman's Place and leave your suggestions and comments. You can also send in your questions and comments via text messages on 025-271-959. That is 025-271-959. The topic for today is male involvement in women's health. We hope to discuss the positive roles male play in the health of their wives, partners, daughters, and women in general. We also hope to discuss the negative roles that men play and find ways to reduce or eliminate those roles. We can all agree that the social norms and gender roles in our society often deter positive male participation. With me today, I have two men, because we can't exactly talk about male participation without engaging our male counterparts. We have Mr. Gibril Kargbo, Deputy Executive Director at the Rainbow Center. Please say good evening to our viewers.
Good evening, viewers.
I also have Mr. Umaru Samai, a Communication and Gender Analyst. Mr. Samai, please say good evening to our viewers.
Good evening, viewers.
All right, okay. Thank you. So let me start with you, Mr. Samai. How would you define male participation or male involvement?
I would have loved to stay to the question that defines male involvement, but let me please just give a brief history of how the concept of involving men and the fight for gender equality, including women's health. For more than 3 centuries, so to say 300 years, fighting gender equality in Africa. We have invested finances and human resources, but up to date as we speak, we still have a vast gender inequality in the country. So we ask as gender activists, what is the problem? Where is it that we have not been able to achieve gender equality? And the question that came to mind is that for those years we have advocated for women to be given equal opportunities, we have left behind the major actor, who are the men. Because mind you, we operate in a society that believes in male supremacy. That this Australian is a patriarchal society. So the pushers or the movers of that system are men. So if we are moving forward for women to have equal access as men do, then we have to bring on board men. So the concept of engaging men and boys to achieve gender equality or in areas that relate to women's health came to play. So it's about engaging men and boys, bringing the men as actors, their roles and their responsibility, and achieving gender equality. And it starts right from the home up to the state. So we
all have a role to play eventually.
Yes, everybody have a role.
Okay, that's good. And when we talk about male involvement, I know in general it denotes a positive, it has a positive denotation, meaning we're bringing men in to improve women's health. But men also they have negative aspects when it comes to women's health as well, as we'll talk about eventually. But what do you think is important for fathers and husbands or partners to do with regards to the health of their wives, their partners, their daughters? What's your opinion? What do you think they can do within the home? Within the home. We'll start within the home first before we go into the community.
Unfortunately, I'm not married. I'm single. But like I am Oh, soon to be.
Soon to be.
Thank you. But the thing is, I have engaged in a very serious relationship, and one of the things that I do to actually keep my woman or my fiancée very healthy is that I do not let her do all the work.
Yes, so household duties.
For me, one of my responsibility in the home is not just to provide money for food. It's also my responsibility to prepare food for my wife to eat. Okay. It sounds so romantic and somehow so unfamiliar to us. But one thing I have observed is that women are so, they are well created in a way that they deserve special care than the way men do.
Right.
So for me, one of the way for us to maintain or to have women more healthier than others is to see how best we reduce the domestic work.
Okay.
And unfortunately, they have a lot of work to do, but yet they are not paid for. So for me, I do my work at home. I allow my wife to sit and look at me while I do the work. Okay. And in areas where I think her involvement is important, I bring her on board. I want you to please do this for me. And by then she realized that I'm doing a favor.
Right.
And I let her know that you are doing a favor.
Right.
It is our responsibility to keep the home clean, not your responsibility.
Yeah, mutual efforts.
Yeah, it's going to be collective. So if we as men go with this perspective that women should not just be working throughout, I think we'll be able to keep them more healthy than giving them all the responsibility in the home.
Thank you, Mr. Samai. Mr. Kargbo, what's your opinion on that? What do you think, what role do you think husbands or partners have with regards to their wives, with regards to women in society in general? Doctors, what do you think?
Thank you so much. So for me, the first thing I think is about improving communication. It's about understanding what your wife needs, understanding what your daughters need. And in doing that, I think that you have to understand the gender roles. Right. And you know, looking at the gender roles, you have, for example, in the area of production, you know, looking at the productive industry, for example, what is the role of men and what is the role of women, and what support do you think you need to give to women to bring them up to speed, or to bring them up to a level where they could equally, you know, get the job that a man can get and bring that income level.
You're talking about economic
empowerment, you know. And you want to talk about reproduction as one of the gender roles. You know, you have many men can just impregnate a woman and forget it, you know. So as a man, you have to understand the challenges, the difficulties that women go through until delivery. And it's not only about delivery. What role do you play in bringing up the child as a man? Right. Do you just forget about everything and leave in the hands of the woman? Or you have a role to play to ensure that the children are brought up in a way that society will accept them? Right. And the third thing is about understanding what we call community management as the third gender role, which is about decision making, which is about
how to empower.
Exactly, access, you know, access to resources, deciding on the use of the resources, ownership of the resources. Many times it is us, the men, like my brother indicated, you know, we live in a patriarchal world where we feel we are the movers and shakers, we are in authority, we have everything as the men, forgetting that the women, you give a woman a position of power, she can do a lot more, you know. So you have to ensure that you provide the empowerment necessary. You know, for me as a gender person, what normally I am very much interested in is gender equity. You know, so gender equity talks about bringing somebody, a woman, for example, bringing that woman to a level. Now we have free education, for example.
For girls,
you know, free education for everybody. But looking at socially, what are the issues around the home that affect the
girls?
Girl?
Not even accessing the education, even when it's free.
Exactly.
I get your point.
know, even when it's free.
Right.
You know, so ensure that you provide the support necessary for that girl child to ensure that the girl and the boy can go equally to school. And at the end of the day, they acquire education, and you can bring them up in the productive side where the man can be employed and the woman can be employed as well.
Thank you, Mr. Kargbo. So I think basically we've highlighted psychological supports. I mean, we're talking about health. When we talk about health, it's not only the physical well-being. So you've just mentioned something that comes to do with mental health, for example, how the husband is with the wife at home. And thank you again, because we want to make sure that women are afforded the same rights that men are afforded, so that they have equal opportunities eventually. So that's very good. But we're talking about, let's say, physical health now. And when it comes to, there are certain things like family planning, contraceptive use, like antenatal care, postnatal care. When it comes to all of those things, how do you think men can be positively involved? So let's start with you, Mr. Samai, and then we'll come to Mr. Kargbo again. How do you think men can be positively involved in any one of these things I've highlighted?
As I stated earlier, men, we have a greater role to play in achieving gender equality,
Right.
and at the same time ensuring quality health care for our wives, our sisters, our mothers, and for our women. Before now, there was this thing called husband clinic.
Okay.
Husband clinic engage men to see how best they can learn how to take care of their children at home.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was part of one of those clinics to see how best I can actually better understand or go through the experience.
Where were they being held?
Women go through it. It was like a mobile clinic.
Okay.
Yes. We host on the weekly basis to see how we have facilitators who can actually teach you what are some of the things, and you will actually experience the real nature, what it is that women actually go through when they take care of children. So first of all, it has to do with us changing the perspective, because everything has to do with mindset. If I am going with that patriarchal thinking that everything that contains the home should be taken care of by the wife, then my responsibility, sorry to say, I'm just a little bit useless in the home, because I just
provide maybe
on the wife. Whilst I think my responsibility is only to provide money to fix things up. But if you realize that you have these moral obligations, you have this duty as a husband to support your wife and also to support your children, not only financially, but issues that has to do with their health. It will surprise you to know that I do accompany my wife, my fiancée, to the hospital. It's not because I'm a doctor,
of course,
but my presence alone is enough to give her more courage to go through whatever exercise it is. So let's start by giving them support. Let's understand that the home is run collectively, not individually.
As a team.
So the moment you bring on board the collectivity, they will be able to sort out the issues of women's health and the areas mentioned
already. Mr. Kargbo, what's your take?
So the issue of sexual reproductive health, information and services, maybe I want to talk a little bit about, what is happening to schoolgirls. We have as a kind of policy, in a way, they say if you are visibly pregnant, you are not allowed to school.
Right.
And the system does not provide the support required for that girl child to receive the kind of services, family planning, for example. The family setup, the family, particularly us the men, the fathers, we do not have what it takes. We do not have the time. We do not provide the space for our girls, for us to discuss.
There's no open communication.
No open communication.
It's that taboo in the society.
So it's a kind of double punishment on the girl child. The family does not provide the space to discuss sexual reproductive health issues.
Right.
And the society does not provide family planning, for example. A girl has to pay. And if you live in a remote community where you don't have access to money, you will not have access to the family planning community.
Well, I do believe family planning services are free.
They are free.
They are free, right?
They are free.
Okay, I get your point. No, so maybe the what they need will be available, but in some places you have to give a bit of money to get it. Is that what you're saying?
Let me tell you about the supply chain of family planning commodities. It is UNFPA that does the procurement in collaboration with the Ministry of Health or government. And those drugs are taken to the central medical stores.
Right.
From the central medical stores to the district medical stores. And the challenge there is from the district medical stores to the PHU in my village, for example, it takes a while. And I think they believe in the push system and not the pull system. So if you live in my village, for example, in Yonibana, where it takes a month or 2 or 3 before you see a vehicle, and the family planning commodities run out, what do you expect?
When do you get it? But I also think there's a huge disparity when it comes to rural and urban areas. So now we're talking about chain supply. So maybe what that girl in Freetown will be able to have access to, the girl in a remote village would not be able to get access to.
There are certain commodities that are needed by almost every young girl.
Right, right.
And many times they are not there. They run out.
Right.
And until the push, you have to go to the pharmacy and buy it. And if you don't have that, you know. But the most important thing is about the information.
Right.
It's about providing the information necessary for the girl child. You provide the different options, you know, and you ensure that the girl knows that you can access family planning commodity from this point.
So we're talking about, yes, girls, but let's say, I mean, like I mentioned, family planning and antenatal care and like prevention of STIs, for example. So let's say if you're in a committed relationship or you're married, it's usually a mutual, you know, decision as to say, well, we want to space our children. How do we go about it? And I often find that in this society, women would want to have some sort of contraceptive, but men are a bit reluctant to allow their partners to you know, use contraceptives. What do you think about that? What's the fear?
It has to do with one, communication, and you as a wife, you really have to see as best as possible to communicate to your husband. In as much as we really want to see women access to healthcare,
right.
but like we also got some things we have to maintain. I believe there are some cultural aspects. There are some aspects of our culture that are good that we can actually take. One has to do with reproduction. For me, I'm coming from a very native background.
Okay.
Right. Before now, your worth is measured by how many children, how many wives you have. Yeah, society is changing.
Right.
Yeah, we are now exposed to different technological devices that actually we have learned that it is best to space your children. It is best to see how best you can give back to children that you can actually provide for.
Yeah, there are benefits.
But now let's have a situation. Yeah, the man will say, I need 4, for instance, 4 children in my family, and we have cases where the man will be yearning, the husband will be yearning for 4, but God cannot permit it. We have instances where people have said, I need 4 children, but they don't have none after 10 years of marriage. So if I want to take a kind of contraceptives or to prevent myself from giving birth as a woman, I first have to engage this family matter. Let's go to the table as husband and wife. Yeah, it's good for us to have children. Yes, it's good for us to give birth as much as we can. But again, let's look at how much we can bring to the table to ensure that those children have quality education. But most often, what is missing is communication. The wives will like to take it like, this my right to do it.
Well, yes, I know women will say, okay, yes, it's my body, so I am going to decide what happened. And yes, I am also one who subscribes to that belief that, yes, it's my body, but I believe in communication, for sure. I think when you're obviously in a marriage or in a committed relationship, that's one of the things you discuss, how many children you want to have, for example. And then there has to be an agreement. But when you come to spacing, you have to figure out how many children can I afford to pay school fees for? How many children can I feed? Isn't that part of what you're saying in terms of communication?
Yeah, in as much as I support the issue of women having access to the body, it's your body.
Yeah.
It's not just because I'm your husband, so I have control over your body.
Course,
it's your body. But again, I also have some rights as a husband. And that right for you to maintain it has to do with how best you change my thinking about spacing children and how many children I want to have.
Well,
There is the more reason why it's important. Before you go into matrimonial home,
Right.
first sit on the table and discuss. This is what I will tolerate, and this is what I will not tolerate. So when there is an agreement, then you go into it. Then if there is a shift, you refer to that agreement. This is what we initially agreed on, that you promise that I will maintain my right to my body. If I want to pierce up my body, it's my body. If I have no right to tell my wife how to dress, though society will say you have to, she's your wife. But for me, if she wants to dress, let her dress. It's her dressing.
Well, I think that's the importance of today's episode when we talk about gender roles, especially in this society. I mean, obviously, we know when it comes to relationships or marriages, it's a team, eh? Like you have mutual, there should be mutual understanding. But then there's autonomy. Like you can do your thing how you want to. So in so many ways, I believe the woman can also do certain things that comes to her health and her body. So like when we talk about antenatal care, for example, how many men have you seen go into antenatal care with their wives?
I have seen so many.
So many. I haven't seen that many.
I have seen so many.
Really?
Probably it's because we are out for things. A lot of things.
So things have changed. Things have changed.
Yeah.
So people are going to antenatal care.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's good. I mean, I think that's important because part of the problem when we talk about male involvement, we need to equip these men with information, first of all, when it comes to, for example, if their wives are pregnant, what's happening with them, talk about birth planning, like delivery plan, to talk about, again, family planning after that delivery. So antenatal visits are important not only for the women, but also for the men when it comes to education. And then we talk about STIs, sexually transmitted infections in our society. What role do you think men have to play? Let me go to you, Mr. Kargbo. You've been relaxed.
I think it's about being honest as a man. You understand, that STI has lots of issues around the health of a woman.
Right.
And you have to have an open conversation, because many a time I've seen that if you are infected, for example, you go for treatment, the health personnel will tell you, go and bring your partner.
Right.
So it's about being honest to go and say, I'm infected and I want you to be treated as well.
That's not a common thing.
It's not common.
Not only in this society, but I don't know a place where something like that is common. Because, for example, we're not allowed to tell the partner, but we encourage the patient to inform his or her partner.
Exactly.
So when it comes to, when we talk about sexually transmitted infection, we're talking about condom use, for example, or we're talking about promiscuity. And obviously, I mean, I don't want to say equal roles because I think it's more on the male side. Would you say I'm right if I say that men have a bigger role to play when it comes to prevention of the spread of STIs? Would you say?
I think
what do you think?
I think we have a 50-50 point.
Exactly. It's everybody's business.
Yeah. It's everybody's business for sure, but don't you think men have a bigger role to play? Okay, you wouldn't say that. Because I'm thinking when it comes to, even in a union, there are more males that would refrain from using a condom, for example. Or even in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, whatever the case may be, I think there are more males. Wouldn't you agree with that? And why do you think that is? Well, we all know why that is. But wouldn't you say that more males would refrain from using condom? Because I'm thinking all of these things that we're talking when it comes to women's health. Yes, I have a role to play as a woman, but also the man has a role to play. And we're talking about, now we have female condoms, we have male condoms, for example. And I know most of the patients I see, when it comes to even in the use of contraceptives, they would probably hide and want to use the implants so that it's basically non-visible, as opposed to using like IUD. Maybe the man can feel the coil. So all of those things. I think it's good that we have that discussion as to how we improve men's participation when it comes to these services that women seek. Because now we're talking about urban area, but in the rural area, a woman probably has to ask permission from her husband, don't you think? To be able to go and seek like contraception. Say she's had 4 children and she wants to take a break. Don't you think she would have to ask?
Yeah,
as the gender analyst?
It actually has to be a kind of agreement. Then do it. In fact, let me go with you and ensure that you have it. But I have practical experience. Observed that we have women, married women, who have like taken contraceptive so much, but yet at the end of the day, they end up being pregnant again.
Okay,
I have seen
failure.
one or two
I
instances. So for me, the issue of like giving space in terms of reproduction hugely depends on agreement. You have to agree with your partner. Now we need two. Two is enough, because for me, I have to give back to children that I can provide for.
Right.
That I can at least have a legacy that they can live on for the next 20, 30 years. That's what I am looking at. But again, from the native man or from my grandfather from the village, his riches depends on the number of children he has. So we are going forward. We are supposed to provide a kind of good education for the people living in the rural area. Because for the urban settings, we have at least educated people who have like seen, no, it's not good for me to give back to more children that I cannot cater for. But again, when you go down there, when you meet some chiefs, when you meet some imams, some pastors, for them, their child are like their asset. They are not liability. This is what I depend on. After 10, 20 years, I know one of my child will be doctors like you, or be a lawyer, or be somebody in good position, or a president.
And
so
take care of them.
So that the children will take care of me. So let's continue providing the education to them, that give back to children you think you can
take care of,
not just for artists.
You want to say something?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So I think education is really very important here. Because we live in a kind of religious community,
of course,
where people do not believe in this modern way of contraception.
Okay.
And people believe, like my brother said, people believe that my children are my assets. The number of children I have, could be equal to my wealth in the future. So trying to change that mentality, trying to change that mindset requires lots more education. I have been in a community, like around 2011, I worked in a community where a whole NGO that promotes family planning, contraception, those kind of things, were driven out of the community. Say, here, we don't accept it. Yes, I've seen it. So it takes lots more public education, public awareness for people to understand that, there are certain people that will say, if I take contraception, I take injection, if I want to become pregnant, it's never possible again.
Okay, talk about the side effects that can possibly happen,
Well,
it's different for everybody for sure, but as we've discussed, it's mostly about communication, education for these men. So definitely that's a good side. We've already started talking about it, but the pluses. Why is it important to involve men in women's health? Like specifically, why is it important that we involve men? I mean, you gave a whole background about why we were talking about male involvement, but specifically, like, what are the benefits? What are the pluses of involving men?
One great benefit or the process that I would derive from engaging men in terms of women's health is that I don't want to say women are not economically empowered.
Of course not.
But I tell you, when you think of percentage, we have more empowered men than women in terms of economic status.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Don't forget, we have gone through years of gap where women were underpaid because of their sex. This is a woman, even though we have the same qualifications.
Yes, you get paid less.
Than I do. I get more paid just because I'm a man.
Right.
So that gap, for more than 100 years, we have seen men climbing the ladder than women. Faster. So I might be right or still to be corrected that we have more empowered men than women. And when you go down to the provinces, you see every family, though we have women as a household head, but every family depends on the man as breadwinner. Either directly or indirectly. Even if the wife does bring money to the home, it's going to be placed in the care of the husband. Because to the wife, my husband is like a prestige to me. My husband provides that societal care that I have a husband at least. So the husband decides how I'm going to use this money. So for instance, if I understand the importance of women's health and how best maintaining that will actually contribute to the family health,
right,
then I will be able to release money for the woman to go through various health care.
Right.
But if I don't really understand, I don't want to care about the health of my wife, obviously money is not coming out. How I do it, for me, with my fiancé, we sit on the table. You are earning, if you have 1,000 euros, bring it to the table. If I have millions of euros, bring it to the table. We put it together, it becomes one. Then we decide, for this month, what is your need? What's your need for money?
Yeah.
You give me a list, and she asks me, what's your need for money? I give her a list. We agree and approve, then we'll do investment.
Oh, wow.
So if we are providing such education for people actually who are not educated, then they will better understand that it's good for women to have access to quality health care.
Okay, thank you. We're going to come back to you, but okay, viewers, remember you're watching The Woman's Place live on AYV Television channel 33. You can also visit our Facebook page at The Woman's Place. We're ready to accept your calls and your comments. Please call 025-271-959, 025-271-959. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after this message. Welcome again, viewers. You're watching The Woman's Place on channel 33 AYV Television. Our topic for today is the role of men in women's health. I have with me two dynamic men, Mr. Gibril Kargbo from Rainbow Center and Mr. Umaru Samai, gender analyst. We've been discussing the positive roles that men play. So I just finished with Mr. Samai, so let me ask you again, Mr. Kargbo, what do you think are the pluses of involving men in women's healthcare?
Involving men in women's healthcare, so I think it makes provision for an open conversation. It makes provision for confidence building in the children, the girls in particular, where they will have the confidence that now I can sit with my father, and discuss about issues related to my health, my sexual reproductive health, for example, So, and like he mentioned, we want to look at the issue of power, power
in the home.
In the home,
right.
It is the man that makes all the decisions, So the sooner you get the man involved in understanding the benefits of investing in the health of his family, the better it becomes.
Thank you. So, Mr. Kargbo, you work with the Rainbow Center, which deals mostly with cases of gender-based violence. I know women also can be perpetrators of gender-based violence, but it's mostly males and mostly young males. Why do you think that is?
Well, by nature, biologically, it is us, the men, that are perpetrating violence in terms of rape and sexual penetration.
Yeah, but it's the young men as well.
Young men.
Yeah.
I think it has to do with lots more of social issues, including our thinking, including impunity, thinking that
I can get away
rape
with
a woman
it,
and nothing comes out of it.
Yeah.
You know, so that is why it is, for us, it is important that now we've started seeing some form of political will within the fight. We've seen that the Sexual Offences Act, for example, is being amended. That could provide an opportunity for women, and could provide an opportunity for us that are fighting against the GBV. You know, so, and I think also another thing we may also want to look at has to do with the drugs. Has to do
like drug abuse, you mean?
Drug abuse.
Okay.
You know, alcohol, for example. You know, it is natural. The more alcohol you consume, you know, the hyper you become, that you can do whatever. You know, so, but those are all things that we need to actually investigate. Why, you know.
So how do you think GBV in general, or intimate partner violence, because that's also a thing, it's not only, you know, strange men raping or abusing women, sometimes this happens within the home as well. How do you think this affects the health of the survivors?
So, let me tell you, let me just give you a kind of statistics.
Okay.
From January 2019 to the end of August 2019, we've seen a total of 2,566 cases of sexual assault.
Wow.
You know, and out of that number, we recorded 389 for pregnancies.
While the women were pregnant?
No,
what do you mean?
The women
they
that were
became pregnant.
raped became pregnant.
Okay.
So 389 of the 2,566, they showed positive of pregnancy. And interestingly, 2,129 of this number is STI positive. So you see the effect.
So it's far-reaching.
That's the thing. You know, so until everybody comes on board, family members, whoever, whatever institution, judiciary, the imams, the churches, the medics, whoever, to ensure that we bring this menace down, it's going to continue to affect the health of women.
And we talk about, as you mentioned, in physical health, but there's also a huge mental load when it comes to that.
Exactly. Lots of psychological issues. You know, the sooner you are abused sexually, the trauma is left with you for the rest of your life. And we don't have those psychosocial supports that people can provide for a very long time, because psychosocial support is not something one-off. It's something that you need to continue, you know, to heal you, and we don't have that. You know, so.
Excuse me, you mentioned pregnancies. So with pregnancies, do you have any statistics with regards to how many of those women seek abortion after a rape?
We don't have that. What we provide is IPLs, or you call it emergency contraceptives. So the sooner we test you are positive of pregnancy, that is just within maybe a week or two, we can provide you with IPL. But is that enough?
And maybe you have people presenting later, not immediately after the rape as well. So that's a huge thing when it comes to, I mean, like we've said, unwanted pregnancies, unsafe abortions, maybe neglected children, even if they do go through the pregnancy and they deliver those babies. So all of those things, and we've mentioned psychological trauma as well.
And many times it leads to fistula.
Yes, yeah.
You know, we've seen so many cases. Imagine somebody raping a 3-year-old, somebody raping a 7-month-old, Somebody raping a 5 years old.
Yeah.
You can imagine what that can lead the child to.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my. Okay, Mr. Samai, what do you think are these barriers when it comes to male participation? I mean, we've mentioned a whole lot about the role that society plays. Like, we're in this country where we've talked about male empowerment and lack thereof when it comes to, you know, the female side. But apart from that, what do you think are the barriers when it comes to active male participation in women's health?
After my first degree, I decided to read my advanced degree in gender studies.
Your first degree?
After my first
After
degree,
your first
my
degree.
advanced degree was in gender studies.
Okay.
So I took the acceptance letter from Fabe College, and I met my dad and said, "Dad, I have got acceptance letter to read masters in gender studies." And he looked at me.
Why?
And he was like really amazed and surprised, why gender studies?
Yeah.
And for a week, he was still thinking of it, why this guy has to choose gender studies instead of mass communications. And one day he called me to a table and asked me, quote and unquote, why you left man? So this is just a practical example, but it happens. When once people see you advocating for women, and when once you said, I want to trumpet the issues of women, they start calling you, this is like so woman business. So most often you realize that gender advocates are really a little bit, I have to reserve my opinion, because we all do care about what people say about us. I obviously want a very positive branding, a positive image about myself. So I don't want to go deep in areas where people will say Elekumanu, and once you are tagged as Elekuman, people start seeing new kind of eyes.
I understand.
This guy is not serious, he's not responsible. But this is one of the major factors affecting effective participation of men in terms of advocating for women and girls issues. Well, most often we have seen men like us, you know, we are fighting against this discrimination, and we are like, the awareness is not there. We have seen men really shouting, I want my wife to be a member of parliament, I want my wife to be a councillor, I want my wife to be president. And for issues related to gender equality, issues related to access to women's health care, we have to like capture or aspect, more importantly, one, women's economic empowerment, because when women have access to money, like we are giving them the power to take decisions related to their health. When women's political participation, when we have more female members of parliament, when we have more ministers, when we have more women taking decisions at national level, then you see policies capturing more of women affairs. But the moment we are still having less than 30% of women at the House of Parliament, there is an issue.
Of course. Viewers, this is just a reminder, you can call us on 025-271-959. Okay, what do you think? What are the barriers to active male participation?
Social norm.
Yeah.
Cultural, religious.
That's a huge one. That's definitely a huge one. I'm thinking like there are some communities where if a man goes with his wife to the hospital, it would be seen as, you know, she's dominating him, so to speak.
Call it a fulefu.
Yes, fulefu.
Yeah, you would see that as dominating him. So like all of those things. So social norm is a big thing. We have to make it, you know, in such a way that we see it as normal. We see it as normal that people can actually go and access healthcare services with their partners, and we won't frown, you know, at things like that. But you mentioned like husband clinic, for example, male-friendly services. It would be good if we have hospitals that have male-friendly services that cater specifically when it comes to like education of men. We definitely have to increase the amount of hours that we open, because we're talking about you going to work and coming at 5, you know, maybe the hospital or the clinic is closed, so we have to see how we can do that. Then we have to, we're talking about socially delegated roles, making sure that it's not just, you know, the man this way, where, you know, the powers are equally distributed. So that's very good. So now, within rural communities, for example, how do you think we can increase male participation? We talked about education, for sure, but how else do you think we can increase male participation within rural communities? Because now we're talking about urban, yeah.
So in the rural community, for me, I think we need to have male champions, those that are in authority, those that people respect. You know, we change their mindset and we use them to change others. You know, I have seen husband schools.
Right, so you just mentioned that. Yeah.
You know, husband schools where husbands do meet in rural communities. They meet and just discuss issues around male participation, issues around supporting women, supporting their children. You know, so looking at people that people respect in those communities and allow them to become champion. Invest in them to engage, invest in them to educate their colleague.
Right.
You know,
that's a good thing. So like kind of pair teachings. If I know something, then I can go back into the community and teach somebody else.
Right.
And then it doesn't seem so strange, I think, when it's coming from one of their own, don't you think? As opposed to somebody leaving Freetown, going to a village. Yeah, so if you've educated somebody or, you know, made somebody a bit more aware about what these issues are affecting women, you know, girls within the community. And then I think when we go to like religious bodies, like churches, like the mosques again, because anybody that has a role within the society, don't you think those people would have, you know, they're better placed to spread the message?
Definitely.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. I think they'll be better placed.
Then we should not also forget our traditional leaders.
Yeah.
They play, our paramount chiefs are very instrumental, especially when it comes to the aspect of maintaining culture. In my village, the paramount chief is like the president. Whatever he sees, even if the central government says Saturday is cleaning, if it doesn't come from the paramount chief, the people will not take it for granted. It first has to be pronounced by the paramount chief that, for instance, this coming Saturday is a general cleaning. Then you'll see on Saturdays youth, women, men galvanizing for the cleaning exercise. And also there's this kind of thing I have observed. There's a kind of huge gap between women.
In which way?
Women living in urban settings and women living in rural areas.
Right.
And even when it comes to the urban setting, there's still an existing gap between the educated and the uneducated. Most often we have seen women who are educated, there's a kind of circle. I tell you, the voices we used to have when I was a very small guy, is still the voices we have on radio stations. We still have those advocates for more than 30 years. These are still the voices.
So we need to bring new people in.
So let's see how best we engage those people we think they can bring anything value to the table. I learned a lot during the women's presidential debate. MP debate at the auditorium British Council. You see somebody from McKinney, people thought she's not educated. She's just one of those people from the market. But she brought to the table some issues that are of more important than even the people we thought are up there. So the moment we close the gap, then we're better positioned to see how best we achieve that. And men have a greater role to play in filling that gap. There our role as men comes in. We meet the religious leader, as you rightly said. We meet the pastors. Let them preach it in their sermon that men and women are equal, as both the Bible and the Quran have stated. We are all created equal. The separation of men being the supreme than women is based on social norms. This is what society is saying, and as such we have accepted it to be like that. So if we preach equality, then we'll see a generation coming up feeling equal and thinking equal.
Thank you. So we're going to go, I think, last words now. Mr. Kargbo, how do you just summarize the entire topic that we've been discussed? What do you think you want viewers to know? What's your take-home message?
Yeah, so I just want everybody, especially us men, to know that we have a role to play in supporting our daughters, in supporting our sisters, our friends. You know, like just the statistics I've read, you see that women that suffered rape, they have adverse health effects on them, so imagine 389 people became pregnant out of a total of 2,566, so we need to see the women as our sisters, we need to see them as our mothers, provide the opportunity for them, promote gender equity, give every opportunity to the woman, to the girl child, for example, to ensure that the child is raised to a level that they can equally, participate in society, in decision making, in every facet of life.
Thank you, Mr. Kargbo. Mr. Samai, what's your last word?
For me, I want men, especially state actors, decision makers, right from section level to council level, to district level, to provincial level, and national level. Let's give space to women. If we want to see massive development that is sustainable, if we actually want to achieve the SDG, the Sustainable Development Goals as against 2030, then let's mainstream gender in all aspects of national development. For heaven's sake, you can achieve development, a sustainable development, without women.
Sure.
If we are saying of free quality education, then women should be at the center. Let's deviate from the attitude of giving them the back seat and then going behind the windows to shout, we want this, we want that. Let us give them the assurance that you can do it. Comfort and be a member of parliament, comfort and be a councillor, come for the presidential seat of Sierra Leone, then the confidence will be there and we will see sustainable development in Sierra Leone.
Thank you very much. Well, viewers, this is The Woman's Place. We've been discussing the role of men in women's health. We've talked about the importance of males as fathers, as husbands within the home. We've talked about the importance of men participating in issues like attending antenatal clinic for a pregnant woman, the use of contraception and family planning methods. We've talked about how men can play a role when it comes to STI prevention, especially HIV. We've talked about the positive roles that men can play within our society to make sure our women are well catered for. We've also highlighted the Rainbow Center and the work that they do when it comes to gender-based violence, intimate partner violence, and talked about how those survivors have far-reaching health effects within their reproductive life. We hope that the message has been heard. We hope that we can work collectively to see how we can improve the education of men when it comes to women's issues. Make sure we provide male-friendly services within our hospitals. I really want to thank Mr. Kargbo, Gibril Kargbo, Deputy Executive Director of Rainbow Center, for coming, and also Mr. Umaru Samai, Gender Analyst, for coming here this evening. I want to thank the team here at AYV, and thank you, viewers, for inviting us into your homes this evening. Until next time, have a good evening and a good weekend.
You're watching AYV Television.